Welcome to the latest in this London Speaker Bureau Making Sense of video series. Today's guest is Inma Martinez, a highly respected expert on future technologies such as 5G, AI, big data, cloud and edge computing, autonomous vehicles and many other tech-related topics. Today we're going to ask, how will these and other technologies influence business in the future, and what will this mean to the way that humans work? Inma is the author of The Fifth Industrial Revolution, a 21st century commercial expansion of space. And I wish we had time to talk about that today, but we won't. However, as an AI scientist for over 10 years, she's developed a committed relationship with Imperial College in London, where she's a guest lecturer. She's been described as a data scientist who comes from the future. So welcome, Inma. Do you bring good news, or are you a bit of a Terminator?
I tend to think that I bring good news. I've been described as an inspirational technologist. So I think my message is always about the brilliance and the opportunity of the future. Humans will embrace services and products delivered to them by super tech when we really deliver what people want. That is the magic moment.
AI is the topic that you're so passionate about, and the vast majority of people have probably heard about it, but don't really know what AI is. Can you give us a simple example of how AI is being used effectively in business today? Because it's not science fiction technology anymore, is it? It's already being used.
The world is full of data. Because we have turned everything into data, music, pictures, sounds, images, everything is digital, right? And it exists in such vast amounts, our biological brains cannot see what they're trying to show us. So we need machines that would analyze all of that within seconds and show us a picture of what is it that we are seeing. How many cancer markers are in this radiology? And then prediction. Can you please tell us if this thing will happen in the future? And that's what the machines are learning to do. And eventually, because they will do it with zero errors within a low margin of operation, we will let them carry on, do what they do best, which is precision, quantification, etc. We know now that cloud is the future. The amount of data to store and manage is such that it needs to be put up in massive, massive virtual servers. Not a question about that. Everybody gets it. Every single organization now is using cloud. But there is something else called edge. And what is the edge? The edge is when we, for example, work as a doctor in a hospital and we have these iPads and we quickly analyze things on a patient. And everything is happening on this iPad and whichever sensors we have on this patient. Nothing goes to the cloud. If you ask the health service, like, why is that? Oh, it's because when you load up things to the cloud, there's a lot of latency, meaning it takes a long while to send data. And yes, but also something more important. What you do in cloud is you trained AI, you train the machines to know what to do. Once they know what to do, you embed it in a small device and everything happens there. Now we know that wherever we are working, I am a doctor, I am an architect, I am someone checking things for a client right there, or in a factory, I can perform highly sophisticated calculations or services right on this tiny device. I don't need to go into a massive server. No. Everything happens right then and there. The famous real time, there you go, edge computing. In the healthcare sector, anything that requires high precision, whether it's a surgery of millimeters or whether it's being able to predict if a patient is going to have rheumatoid arthritis. So the system takes a picture, a radiology image of their knees and compares it right there to tens of thousands of images that trained model has already learned to distinguish. And the doctor will say, Yeah, I think that in 6 months, this is going to be worse. The ability to predict, to detect and predict on the spot. So systems that will be able to do that will be invaluable to us, because it's the end of statistical analysis and the beginning of something that helps me see the future and predict things in any sector.
There are more highly qualified engineers alive today than there's actually been in the history of humankind. What do you think this will mean to the way we do business in the future?
If you are a company that do not understand that you need to digitize yourself and make software part of your core business, whether you're selling your products online or you start digitalizing your operations, you will be left behind. So loads of people thought software engineer is the future. And now what is happening is that when we have this surplus of engineers, because we have finally trained systems to be automatic and intelligent, we notice that what we need is creative people, innovative people. The amount of searches on Google for the word innovation is exploding in 2020, because that's the new profession.
Isn't that what's going to put so many people out of work, though?
Accenture, 5 years ago, did a report as to how many people got fired when large corporations began to bring AI into office workers' desktop, not factories. And the result was those companies ended up recruiting more people, because what machines show you is things that are happening that you never had a clue that was happening. Therefore, they needed to address that, whether it was a problem that needed fixing or it was an opportunity for new products or services. And that is the reality that I have seen across many, many sectors. Whenever you put AI, new opportunities emerge, and then you need to bring people to actually address that. The way we hire people, the way we ask them to deliver value into the company, the way we structure the new profiles of who should be in this team, who should be put in a leadership position, is completely going to change. We want now people with T-bar profiles, meaning a very good, solid know-how and tacit knowledge on something, but also a good understanding and possibly experience in many other things, so that they are versatile, so that they can think out of boxes and consider, abstract thinkings and blue skies, moments in their heads. That's the new management, that's the new hierarchy, and also be able to move people across the organizations from department to department. That right now that doesn't exist, but this is the new future in human capital. It's complete new work of place for everybody.
I would have laid money that one of the most important technologies would be 5G, and you haven't mentioned that.
5G definitely is the progression of 4G networks, because it's able to still put the signal through fiber optic, and then the last 10 or 5% is going to deliver massive bandwidth for whatever we need. Very, very good. But the 5G signal is very weak. So it forces the mobiles, the iPads, whatever is using that signal, the car, to intensely use battery power to pick it up and pick it up. So for example, you talk to the telecom operators, they will still run many services on 4, but also in 3 and 2, because 3 and 2 signals can go through buildings. This is why when you go into a lift, you're like, oh, I'm on 3G. Yes, because it really goes through buildings. 5G will completely change urban work, and then rural areas, which will not have 5G unless you put the signal through the ground, as it happens, will start using nano satellites that deliver connectivity much, much, much higher than 5G. We will live in the next 5 years into the complete explosion of telecoms, with satellite Wi-Fi that you can pick up in the ocean, in deserts, and then 5G in the large urban centers. And it will completely democratize society, because finally everyone will be able to connect and to extract digital services for their lives.
Can you just give us an overview of the sorts of things that a smart city will enable that we can't do at the moment?
Cities of 10 years ago were focused on creating better transportation. If you look at the projects that were created 10 years ago for smart cities in Holland and in other places, it's all about traffic management, the pickup of garbage on better moments. So it was about management of objects that move. And today, what the municipalities that want to continue progressing, you won't believe this, is about how can we make life less stressful in the big city. So mental health is at the top of the agenda in creating value for the people who would live in big cities.
What are the most exciting AI developments that you're seeing in R&D labs around the world? Because it's been said that the future has already happened. It's just that we mere mortals haven't seen it yet.
The whole paradigm of the automotive industry is about transport no longer exists. It's about solving people's problems. I need to go there, but with less pollution, and my child needs to be here, etc., etc., etc. So the car industry is moving further away from transportation. I need to be in a service industry. So this is what is happening thanks to digitalization and AI, that sectors are evolving into other things. The last 5 years, I would say 7 years, is when all of the super giant pharma companies agreed to partner with a given AI company to then create drug development, either vaccines or therapies. Pfizer works with IBM Watson, Novartis works with Benevolent Eye, etc., etc., etc. And then what happened is, because creating drugs used to have an average cost of 2 billion over 10 years. And even then, and phase 4, the regulator could just kick it out. So money is gone. When you do it digitally, it's intensely cheaper, shorter timelines, 4 to 5 years, and less prone to error, and a lot more flexibility to test these molecules and these pathogens in a virtual environment. So pharma finally has found a way to rebirth itself into an attractive sector rather than in a loss-making sector.
How optimistic are you about the future? Not just the technologies, but the effect it's going to have on the quality of life of hundreds of millions of people who right now are really suffering.
We're moving to a world that has a lot more transparency, so we are able to see more horrors, unfortunately, but at the same time, it creates a platform where some companies need to position themselves. Are you on the good side or on the bad one? If you look at what Microsoft is doing under the new leadership of the CEO, Satya Nadella, already they said, we are going to make sure that AI is a force for good. They have adopted that motto. And then you have other companies like Google and Facebook that try to work on the edges of ethics as much as they want. So this is the new battle, a future of ethics, because it will allow us to see so much more and see the effect of whatever we do.
In, say, 50 years' time, will America still be the center of technical innovation, or do you think China's technology will control the world?
Google is a superpower in AI because they bought a British company that had trained deep learning neural networks. Europe is very good in creating new future technologies because we have excellent universities that had empowered engineers and mathematicians to do that. The US, unfortunately, is seeing the demise because they cannot longer sustain that race. They are underfunded. The markets have taken the toll of all of these IPOs that were like blowing up in the skies. Look at, for example, in the last 5 to 7 years, who's been investing in Silicon Valley? The Saudi Arabia Sovereign Fund and SoftBank, which is a Japanese company. Where is the US money? Nowhere to be found. So the US is very good at portraying this image that they can still cut it. And really, Europe has a huge chance to carve a name within specific sectors, healthcare, for example. And China definitely on AI. China is obsessed with AI. And this is the new political terrain of fighting. 60 years ago, you remember, was the space industry. Okay, now is AI. That's why they are at loggerheads.
What's your view on the Clearview AI project? Because there is a downside to this, isn't there? I mean, privacy is something that's almost completely evaporated now. Those who collect and handle this data now know more about us than we know about ourselves.
When data is gathered, not just identifying individuals, but also about what they do on a 24/7 basis, the immediate reaction we have is, oh, if somebody observes me, then they are controlling me, or they can control me. Yeah, because that is obviously, a knowledge that would allow you to do things. And where the regulators are trying to fight the corner of every human on earth is, but that would not be ethical. Even if you could, you should not. So because GDPR failed terribly, because it was all about, please let the person allow you to have the data. And now all of us, every time we visit a page and they say, oh, well, yes, please let me read this article. Yes, we're letting them put cookies and, everything they want on our machines. All the regulators thought, okay, fine, we really messed it up. Where are we going now? What they will be looking is into the ethic of the practice. Yes, you have all of this incredible data about this person. You know what they do, what they shop, why they, okay. You must use it for their benefit. If we find you using it for their detriment, whether it's discriminating them or shortening their consumer rights or civil liberties, etc., then the regulators will fall upon them. So the world is turning to the ethic of having the data.
How would you define technological progress?
Progress changed at the turn of the century. The way progress academically was measured was by accounting the number of patents, inventions, everything that could be proven that we had created a new product or an advancement in the science and engineering, etc. So it was a quantifiable exercise. In 2014, we surpassed the number that had been reached in 100 years before, which meant that progress is no longer a numbers game, because in 14 years alone, bam, we just went over the number achieved in the 20th century. And what we are now seeing is, who is a successful company today? The one that has the most patents? The answer is no. Many companies are successfully selling products and services and becoming sector leaders because of the value creation, the value that they offer to their consumers, to their shareholders, with capitalization, with how the stock is trading in the market. So it's about creating value, which is an abstraction, and no more but the number of patents, which is a quantifiable thing.
Inma, thank you so much. It's been great talking with you today.